we're going to go now to Washington, where David Wessell is standing by. David has been watching the tax debates and the Medicare debates. David, a lot of time spent on both those issues tonight. Did you learn anything new about where the candidates stand on those two issues, taxes, Medicare?
I don't think that I learned anything terribly new, but you and I, Alan, spend more time thinking about these things than most people. I think a lot of people got an education in the differences between the two on taxes and on Medicare. Where the debate just got incredibly confusing is in the President Obama says to Mitt Romney, you're going to cut taxes by $5 trillion, and Mitt Romney says, no, I'm not. And it was very hard to parse. I was watching here with my brother, and he was just throwing up his hands like, you know, can anybody make sense of this? But I actually think there is a significant difference there, and it really boils down to two things. One is the president says we cannot safely reduce the deficit without increasing revenues, without raising taxes. Mitt Romney says that's not so. We can do it without raising taxes. Mitt Romney says I can lower tax rates for everybody, and I'll make up the lost revenue by closing loopholes, deductions, and credits, and getting some kind of benefit, a bonus, from having faster economic growth. President Obama says, I don't believe you can do that, and since you haven't shown me the numbers, I'm going to say that you can't do it.
And so this is not something that can easily be resolved by the voters watching this debate.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah. And how about on Medicare? I mean, I thought it was interesting that Mitt Romney probably more clearly than any time I've heard him before articulated the rationale behind his approach to Medicare. Said you want to create a scenario where the private sector creates pressures to bring down prices. The president focused more on Obamacare's mechanisms, government mechanisms to bring down health care costs.
Absolutely. I think the American people got a real education on healthcare tonight. Both the descriptions of Obamacare were crisper. Both the proponent and the opponent were crisper than anything I've seen before. And I thought the Medicare thing captures exactly correctly what you said, Alan, which is that Mitt Romney believes that first of all, both men believe we have to slow the growth of healthcare spending. Right? That's nice that they at least have agreed on the fundamental objective. But they two very different ways to get at it. Mitt Romney says the only way to do it is to harness the market forces of competition, set up something that looks like a healthcare exchange, and something that Obama favors for under 65 people, and let the elderly shop for insurance among competing plans with a government subsidy. He calls it premium support. The president calls it a voucher. President Obama says that will not work. And instead, he wants to use the muscle of government to set rules and create incentives so the healthcare system has to get more efficient. He does not think that competition, at least for the elderly, for Medicare, is the right way to go. Clear difference. I don't think there's a right answer or the wrong answer, but there is a choice there, and people get to make it on Election Day.
And then finally, both candidates addressed something that didn't get much attention during the conventions, and that is this question of how do you make Washington work when power is divided? How do you deal with the gridlock? Again, Mitt Romney was more effective than I've heard him be in the past, making the argument that he had to do this in Massachusetts, so he knows how to do it. The president, I thought, emphasized the fact that it was the Republicans that were standing in his way. But clearly a key question that's on the mind of a lot of voters.
No, absolutely. I thought that Governor Romney scored a lot of points there when he said, if you want to do something as big as healthcare reform, you have to find a way to do it that gets votes of Republicans and Democrats like I did in Massachusetts, pointing out that the president's healthcare plan is not seen as durable because it passed only with Democratic votes. All the president could say in response was, I wish that the Republicans in Washington had been as cooperative with me as the Democrats in Massachusetts were with you when you were Governor Romney, and that's true. It's hard to blame the president for all the partisan strife in Washington, but he was elected on a platform, on a promise of ending that in Washington. And I thought Governor Romney successfully reminded the American people that maybe it wasn't all his fault, but he didn't deliver on that promise.
Yeah. Okay, David Wessell, thank you very much.